What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Among the Fence, my YouTube channel where I do music reviews. My name is Aaron, and today we're going to be checking out the latest album from Bad Omens titled The Death of Peace of Mind. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this band, they are a metalcore band from Virginia. They started around 2015, and this is their third studio album. And I gotta admit, I've never really listened to this band before, so I went back and listened to their debut and their second studio album, being their self-titled album, and Finding God Before God Finds Me. And people compare them a lot to like the early 2010s, Bring Me the Horizon, which I definitely hear, specifically Sepultural. It's there. I hear that quite a bit. It's not really my preferred style of metalcore like whatsoever, but I do still enjoy it quite a bit, and this album has gotten so much praise, so I'm curious to see how well it stacks up to the other two. The album opens up with the song Concrete Jungle, which has lyrical throwbacks to their previous albums, as do all the songs in this, and it sets the stage for the dystopian kind of concept that this album brings. It touches on our lack of reality and how we're divided and how people keep us divided. And it starts out with the synth beat and slow, kind of almost whispered vocals. The chorus brings out a stronger drum passage and a little bit more presence, which I enjoyed a little bit more. The lyrics aren't terrible, but they're borderline cliche. The breakdown reminded me of like something from the early 2000s, specifically with the turntable effects thrown in there. Then we have the song Nowhere to Go, which reminds me a lot of Linkin Park, specifically the song Breaking the Habit, mostly from like the drums and the synth. And I actually enjoyed the lyrics in this song for their metaphors. I didn't care that much for the vocal performances though. The chorus is super catchy, but it doesn't really do anything musically, and the bridge is basically just a build up into a breakdown that sounds good, but has a horrible transition going back into the end of the song. Take Me First has a really cool riff between the intro and the verse, but there's this weird vocal effect going on too, which kind of ruins it. And once you do get to the verse, then everything cuts out. It's just synth and drums. It is eventually joined by a pounding riff and some chugs, and then once the chorus comes in, those chugs turn into more chords, and it gives a little bit more vocal presence, but otherwise the song doesn't really do too much or go anywhere. Then we have the song, which is the title track song, The Death of Peace of Mind, which has a very basic drum beat to it. It's more of like a pop sounding song than anything else, especially in verse 2. The lyrics are just okay, like the message is easy to understand through the metaphors. There's not like a whole lot of thought process that has to go on or go into it. The breakdown is pretty good, but my favorite thing about it was its transition back into the song. It's not wonky, it's not abrupt, it's not weird, it flows really well. What It Costs is basically just an interlude song that feels super unnecessary, especially the more I listen to it, and the bass drops in it they're just kind of silly, but it does flow really well into the next song, Like a Villain, which is basically about Noah ending a relationship, and the person he ends it with kind of makes him out to be like a villain because they're really toxic and blame him for everything, and he feels bad about it, which is just it's not a very good situation to be in. It's also not my favorite lyrical content. It feels kind of lazy. Specifically, the first line that pops up into the song says, "Look into my face, then look again. We are not the same. We're different." I mean, there's not a whole, there's not really anything. It's very lazy, very, very lazy. The chorus has a really good hook to it though, but the breakdown makes it feel very empty. This is a song that I found myself wanting to pass every time I listen to it, if it wasn't for the next song, Bad Decision, which is probably the most boring song on the album. It's got slow, melodramatic verse, and lyrics don't really say a whole lot, and the first chorus is pretty boring. Sure, it picks up steam a little bit going into the second chorus, but it's just so dull. It's another song that just doesn't feel like it deserved to be on the album. Then we have the song Just Pretend, which is kind of like a bare bones attempt at being suspenseful. Like the chorus is good energy, but the verses are just very lame and very melodramatic. Then we have the song The Gray, which has a solid intro that unfortunately drops out for a very poppy sounding verse and pre-chorus. The chorus has a decent vocal performance, and the drums sound pretty good in it as well. But the post-chorus is where the song really comes to life, which is kind of sad because it isn't really that exciting. It's just where it's at. The bridge is just an empty version of the chorus. It didn't feel like it needed to be there, or maybe they could have done basically anything different other than just doing another chorus. Then we have the song Who Are You, which has this dreamlike verse, and the chorus kind of plunges further into this dreamlike sound. This is probably one of my least favorite songs on the album. Like, the vocals are just okay, but musically it's very empty sounding, very, again, bare bones, almost like a minimalistic approach to music, which is something like pop and indie stuff has been doing for a while. The lyrics aren't great either. The point is very easy to pick up on this song. You get it. It just could have been done a lot better. The lyrics, it's like they just wrote down the first thing that came to their mind and they didn't try and rewrite anything whatsoever. Then we have the song Somebody Else, where Noah wrote the lyrics to the first verse on his Twitch stream in 2020, I believe it was, and just his lack of effort and his just say anything approach and we'll just kind of figure out a way to make it work really shines through. It comes off very lazy. Musically, it's just a bunch of synth stuff and samples thrown together, and so much reverb on his vocals, which is also another issue I have with most of the songs on here. Just the vocal effects basically cuts out everything from his voice, which naturally does, it does sound really good. This is probably like my second least favorite song on this album. And then we have IDWT money sign, which I'm assuming it stands mostly from the lyrical content, meaning I don't want the money, which has, again, so many effects. It's kind of hard to understand the vocals and the verse just because of all the different sound pitches going on and the changes. The message of this song, again, is really good though, but the lyrics make it feel like empty radio friendly stuff. The chorus sounds really good, as does the breakdown, but again, the transition from the breakdown into that final chorus and the rest of the song, it just doesn't work. They gotta find a better way to transition a breakdown. Just cut out the breakdown entirely and throw in a better sounding bridge than anything else they've done on this album, and have it flow smoothly back into the chorus. Because it feels like the only reason why there's a breakdown in there is because they feel like they need to put it in there, and it's just so out of place. It doesn't work. What Do You Want From Me has a really strong like 80s synth wave sound to it, which I found myself enjoying quite a bit. And finally, the guitarist gets a part in a song that can actually be heard. The riff it's not really that great though. It's kind of industrial-esque, but at least it's not a synth, you know? And the breakdown is pretty juicy as well, but again, it just doesn't feel like it belongs in the song. And then we have my favorite song, which I'm assuming is probably everybody's, which is Artificial Suicide. It starts off with that same kind of guitar tone and a very solid riff, and it's got just chaos everywhere. The vocals are very fierce and they're distorted. You can feel the passion and energy. And verse 1 and the first chorus have no separation. They flow right into each other, which it's actually, it makes you have to look at this song a few times and listen to it quite a bit to really understand what's happening here. Like, nothing changes until verse 2, and then it drops down into more of like a narration kind of thing with clean vocals and a quiet synth, and it kind of slowly builds up, I guess you could say. It's rather quick, but it does have a slow progression going back into another intense chorus. The breakdown was just kind of all right. Like, they brought back that riff and that whole sound from the intro, which is kind of chaotic. But the final chorus on the song is easily the best moment on this entire album. And just at the same time, I feel like it's just the best moment, but that doesn't really make it like that great. You know, everything else on this album is just very dull compared to it. And then we have the closing track, Miracle, which has a really weird intro to it. I'm not really feeling the vocal effect that they use in the verse, but I do enjoy the little keyboard melody that pops up, I think, once, probably. The chorus is very distracting, specifically due to the horns. The drums throughout the entire song sound like Architects ripoff. It's just very anticlimactic. I don't know, it just didn't feel like it went anywhere. By the time I finished this album, even like the first or second time, I was just like, that's it. Like, I don't know. There was just nothing there to really move you all that much, or I guess move me all that much. And by the time I finished it, it was just like that. I don't know. It's very underwhelming for sure. The only good aspect I was able to find about this album is the message it sends, which is really good. It struggles with depression and anxiety, rejection, self-loathing, guilt. I mean, just a lot of stuff that's very real and very heavy, and you can feel that. It's just lyrically, it doesn't always get it across in the most creative kind of way, or even like something that looks like they tried to do something different other than just basically tell you what it is, or the metaphors just come off really weak. And again, it's just kind of like radio play kind of stuff. And to sum up how I really feel about this album and everything I dislike about it, I'm going to read a statement that Noah gave to Caring on the song Just Pretend, which kind of fits the whole album for me as far as I'm concerned. This statement he made, it could be applied for the entire thing. He says, "I'm not proud to admit this song kind of started ironically. Being the arrogant person I am, I was trying to prove a point of how easy it is to write modern active rock music suitable for radio, because it all sounds the same to me. Boring as shit. So I made this little guitar loop, freestyled some melody ideas with an obnoxious, deliberate macho cadence, and by the time I finished the chorus, I realized this song had potential to be really sick." Then he goes on to mention that him and another band member, I believe it's Joakim maybe, they worked on the song and revised it or whatever, and now he's really proud of it and blah, 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 blah. Unfortunately, the true and real ironic thing about this statement and about this album is that he managed to still write a modern active rock song that's very boring, and it's just radio friendly. It sounds the same as everything else. And not only did he still do that with this song, but he managed to do it 15 times on this album. Every single song on this is very boring, very like radio friendly. It's more like post metal than anything else. And yeah, because of that, I gotta give The Death of Peace of Mind by Bad Omens a 4.3 out of 10. And I know that there's a lot of people who absolutely adore this album, so I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of dislikes, a lot of hate. So with that being said, leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of The Death of Peace of Mind. Let me know what you would rate it. Let me know what your favorite song is. If you disagree with me, don't just tell me I'm stupid, because it doesn't really do anything. Let me know why you disagree. Maybe there's something I'm missing that is just genius about this album and I'm just not seeing it. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. If you want to help support me and my channel, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon. Doing any of that stuff helps me out tremendously, especially with this crazy YouTube algorithm, which is just all over the place. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this. And I will talk to you guys next time.
I was trying, an ignorant kid relying on my parents' said to save me.